One rainy afternoon, as gusts of wind carried icy drops through the air, Daniel and Emily met by chance, their lives adrift in pursuit of unfinished dreams. Daniel, a young man with a burning ambition, but hands still unsteady in grasping opportunities, encountered Emily, whose deep, thoughtful eyes and gentle smile appeared as the only light in the storm of his mind. That encounter, which seemed at first to be a fleeting moment, turned out to be the beginning of a turbulent journey. From the early days of building their company in a small, humble office, to the endless rainy nights when Emily became Daniel's sole pillar of support, they gradually painted the picture of a life they both dreamed of. Yet the glow of success not only illuminates but also casts shadows. Amidst glamorous parties and admiring gazes from others, Daniel began to forget the hand that had lifted him through the toughest times. Emily, the steadfast companion, gradually faded in his eyes, replaced by the dazzling allure of another. Daniel and Emily's journey is not merely a tale of love and betrayal, but a profound reminder of the value of sacrifice and the power of self-respect. And as the curtain is drawn back, will Emily choose to remain in the shadows or step into the light to claim what she truly deserves? Welcome to this emotionally charged story. Listen and feel, for sometimes the most beautiful stories are written from the deepest pain. Daniel and Emily met on a rainy afternoon when both were struggling with their unfinished dreams. Daniel, an ambitious but inexperienced young man, was grappling with startup ideas without a clear direction. Emily, with her intelligence, calm demeanor, and radiant eyes, appeared as a source of motivation Daniel had never known. They quickly realized that they were not only emotionally in sync, but also complemented each other perfectly in skills and thinking. Their wedding was simple, unadorned, but filled with promises. Emily stood by Daniel not only as a life partner, but also as his first and most important collaborator. After the wedding, they rented a small office in an old corner of town and began building their company from scratch. Emily was the planner, meticulously calculating finances down to the last penny. She embraced the invisible tasks, connecting with clients, drafting contracts, and even making tea when necessary. Daniel, with his natural charisma and eloquence, took the front line, meeting partners and developing strategies. They were a perfect team, each complementing the other in the best possible way. The early days were fraught with difficulty. Sometimes Emily had to deliberate for a long time before deciding whether to buy a new printer or pay the employees. Daniel often worked late into the night, returning home with dark circles under his eyes, but always smiling at the sight of Emily waiting with dinner. They would sit together under the light of an old desk lamp, discussing their first contracts and their grand dreams. "One day, we won't have to worry about money anymore," Daniel said, holding Emily's hand, his eyes lighting up as he pointed to the first design of their company logo. Emily, with unwavering faith, simply smiled and continued calculating the costs necessary to keep the company afloat for another month. On stormy nights when clients rejected contracts or competitors outpaced them, Emily was always the one to encourage Daniel with her comforting hugs and words of support. She never let him forget why they started this journey, not just to build a company, but to create a life they could both be proud of. After years of relentless effort, their company began to take off. A major contract with a renowned retail chain transformed the trajectory of their career. The once tiny office had become a modern building, bustling with a strong team of employees. Daniel became increasingly recognized in the business world, frequently featured in economic magazines. Emily, as always, worked behind the scenes, ensuring everything ran smoothly. However, as the company grew, Daniel also changed. He was no longer the man who eagerly worked late and enthusiastically shared new ideas with Emily. Instead, he became absorbed in lavish events, parties, and the allure of success. Daniel started seeing Emily differently, not as the most important partner in his life, but as someone he considered too ordinary for the luxurious life he now pursued. Emily, always humble and simple, didn't notice the gradual changes in Daniel. She still believed their relationship was as strong as ever, until Daniel started spending more time in endless meetings and on business trips that seemed increasingly unusual. Emily realized something was different when Daniel began missing important family events. Dinners that were once moments for sharing became silent affairs, with Daniel engrossed in his phone or lost in plans that no longer included Emily. "We should take a vacation together to relieve some of the stress," Emily suggested once, but Daniel dismissed her with a curt reply. "I don't have time for that. The company needs me." Gradually, Emily began to suspect that Daniel's time and energy weren't solely focused on work. However, instead of confronting him, she chose to observe, silently questioning whether the man she had wholeheartedly trusted was still there. Welcome, and let us know which city in the world you're following this story from. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any meaningful stories. Daniel met Vanessa at a lavish business party held in an upscale downtown building. It was a glamorous evening, with warm golden lights reflecting off finely crafted champagne glasses. Vanessa, in an elegant black evening gown, stood out not only for her radiant beauty, but also for her confident and sharp demeanor. She approached Daniel with ease. "You're Daniel, right? I've heard so much about you," Vanessa said with a captivating smile and a gaze full of intrigue. Daniel, who had always enjoyed attention, was instantly drawn to her. Vanessa quickly recognized Daniel as a powerful and wealthy man. She didn't hesitate to establish a close connection, from playful remarks to subtle gestures. In that moment, Daniel saw no one else but Vanessa. She embodied the image of the life he dreamed of flaunting to the world, a woman who was not only beautiful, but also sophisticated and strikingly confident. From that first meeting, Daniel began spending more time with Vanessa. Lavish dinners, increasingly intimate text exchanges, and seemingly harmless business trips now all included her presence. From the moment Daniel first met Vanessa at the luxurious business party, he felt like he had found the perfect figure for the life he had always dreamed of. Vanessa wasn't just stunningly beautiful. She exuded confidence and sharpness, a stark contrast to Emily. In the days that followed, as Daniel spent more time with Vanessa, he couldn't help but compare his mistress to his wife. To Daniel, Vanessa was like a sparkling gem, radiating an irresistible allure. She knew exactly how to dress to capture attention, with every accessory and every step meticulously calculated to create a flawless impression. At meetings with clients, Vanessa always made Daniel proud as all eyes turned toward her. She spoke with charm, blending knowledge with finesse. Daniel admired the way Vanessa joked, her sophisticated style, and especially how she made him feel like the center of the universe. Whenever he saw Vanessa at extravagant dinners, with a glass of wine in her hand and the shimmering light reflecting in her alluring eyes, Daniel couldn't help but think, "This is the woman who deserves to stand by my side." Meanwhile, Emily, the woman who had once been Daniel's entire world, now appeared in his eyes as a faint shadow. He saw Emily during ordinary mornings with her hair hastily tied and wearing a simple sweater as she prepared breakfast for them both. She still cared for Daniel, asking about his work, but Daniel found these conversations dull. He no longer noticed Emily's thoughtfulness and kindness, seeing only her simplicity and lack of the shine he thought a successful businessman like him needed. "With Emily, I only see stability, but with Vanessa, I see excitement," Daniel thought. He didn't realize that it was that very stability that had been the foundation of his success during the difficult early years. Each time he saw Vanessa in an evening gown, or the moment she smiled subtly while sipping champagne, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the contrast between the two women. To him, Vanessa represented everything he wanted to showcase to the world: elegance, prominence, and confidence. On the other hand, Emily made him feel ordinary. Although she had always stood by him through the toughest times, Daniel no longer valued it. "She was perfect for the hard times, but not for the luxurious life I have now," Daniel justified to himself. Daniel began to believe that Emily wasn't capable of elevating his image. At the parties Emily attended, she avoided showing off or drawing attention. She was polite and gentle, but didn't leave people in awe. In contrast, Vanessa only needed to appear to make Daniel feel proud. "Vanessa understands how to highlight me," Daniel thought to himself, completely unaware that Emily had always been the one to push him forward, not with glamour, but with unconditional trust and perseverance. As Daniel delved deeper into his relationship with Vanessa, he convinced himself that he deserved to indulge in this new dynamic. "Emily has fulfilled her role, but I need more than that," he thought. Daniel failed to realize that this very mindset was driving him further away from Emily. Little by little, he began to feel irritated by the small things about Emily. Each time she reminded him to eat on time or asked about his schedule, Daniel felt like she was nagging him. He had forgotten that this care and attention were once the things he loved most about her. In contrast, everything with Vanessa was light and effortless. She never questioned him, never reminded him of responsibilities, and only offered the adoration Daniel craved. He didn't recognize that this ease didn't stem from genuine love, but from Vanessa's calculated efforts. She knew exactly how to make Daniel feel special. The more time Daniel spent with Vanessa, the more he forgot the sacrifices Emily had made for him. She had stood by him when he had nothing, believed in his dreams when the world turned its back on him. But now Daniel could only see Emily through a lens of boredom and disdain. Every time he looked at Emily, Daniel subconsciously compared her to Vanessa, and with each comparison, he further justified his betrayal. "She's no longer a good fit for me," Daniel convinced himself, failing to see that the real change wasn't Emily, it was him. Daniel, who had once been a devoted husband working tirelessly to build his family and career, had now completely transformed. He spent less and less time at home, frequently making excuses for business trips or attending events where Emily wasn't invited. Cozy family dinners were gradually replaced by lavish meals with Vanessa at upscale restaurants. Daniel became increasingly meticulous about his appearance. His wardrobe was filled with custom-tailored suits, expensive colognes, and handcrafted leather shoes. He spent more time in front of the mirror, constantly checking his phone with a smile Emily rarely saw. Emily could sense the growing distance. Daniel no longer asked about her work or shared future plans as he used to. His responses to her inquiries about his job became curt and impatient. Emily tried to reassure herself that it was just work pressure, that Daniel was still the man she trusted, but deep down, a persistent unease simmered, like a small flame quietly burning. One evening, Emily suggested, "It's been a while since we spent quality time together. How about we go somewhere this weekend to relax?" Without hesitation, Daniel replied, "I'm busy. Work is overwhelming." Emily, though she didn't voice it, felt the chill of his indifference. Emily began noticing small but unusual changes. One day, while tidying Daniel's office, she stumbled upon a receipt from an expensive restaurant for two. It left her wondering. Daniel had never mentioned dining there with a client. Later, Emily discovered a luxury gift box hidden in Daniel's desk drawer. Inside was a diamond necklace. A pang of pain crept into her heart, but she tried to stay calm, thinking that perhaps Daniel had bought it for her but hadn't had the chance to present it yet. The breaking point came when a message from Vanessa appeared on Daniel's phone screen. Emily's heart seemed to stop. The sweet words, the travel plans, and photos of Daniel with another woman struck her like a powerful blow. Emily felt as if she were caught in a storm of emotions. Her heart pounded so hard that it felt as if her chest could no longer contain it. A sense of dizziness overwhelmed her. Her limbs trembled as though all her strength had been drained. She placed her hands on the table to steady herself, but her mind continued to spin. In those first moments, Emily couldn't hold back her tears. It wasn't just the pain of betrayal, but also the feeling of being disrespected and deceived by the man she had trusted wholeheartedly. She recalled every instance she had stood by Daniel, encouraged him during the company's struggles, supported him in every decision, and loved him unconditionally. "Why did you do this to me?" Emily asked herself in a choked sob. The beautiful memories they shared now felt like shattered glass, cutting into her heart piece by piece. Emily felt anger well up as she thought about the times Daniel had smoothly deceived her, about how he continued the relationship without a second thought for her feelings. She had once believed she knew Daniel better than anyone, but now she realized he had become a person she could no longer recognize. Yet unexpectedly, after hours of crying, Emily refused to let her anger take control. She took a deep breath, and her trembling hands slowly steadied. "If I let myself be consumed by anger, nothing will change," she thought. Emily sat down and carefully reread every message. Each line felt like another dagger to her heart, but instead of letting it crush her, Emily let the pain fuel her resolve. She realized that acting impulsively or confronting Daniel directly would only make her seem weak in his eyes. and she wouldn't allow that. She recalled Daniel's words from the early years of their relationship when they spoke of building a better life together. Now Daniel had forgotten those promises, but Emily hadn't. She decided she would not stand idly by and watch everything she had built be destroyed by Daniel's betrayal. Emily looked at Daniel sleeping peacefully on the couch, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the lies he was hiding. In that moment, she felt both the sting of heartbreak and an inexplicable surge of determination. "You think I'm weak, don't you, Daniel?" Emily whispered to herself. "You're gravely mistaken. You haven't just betrayed me, you've underestimated me. You'll soon realize I'm stronger than you ever imagined." She carefully placed Daniel's phone back where it belonged and wiped away the last tears from her face. Emily was not the kind of person to let pain consume her forever. She would rise and turn that pain into the strength to reclaim what she deserved. In the sleepless nights that followed, Emily refused to let her mind be overtaken by heartbreaking images. Instead, she began to plan. She thought about everything she had sacrificed to help build the company, about how she had stood by Daniel during the toughest times. Emily didn't just want justice for herself. She wanted to protect what she had poured her heart and soul into. She started diving deeper into the company's financial situation, studying shares and consulting advisors without Daniel knowing. Emily realized that the best form of revenge wasn't immediate retaliation, but waiting for the perfect moment to act. And in that moment, Daniel would have nowhere to run. "You think I'm a weak and naive woman who can be easily outsmarted, Daniel? You're wrong. You'll soon see I'm far stronger than you ever imagined," Emily thought, her eyes gleaming with determination. Thank you for following this story. Do you agree with Emily's actions? Comment, "Coca-Cola, if you do." Emily began to execute her plan. Once a financial manager and logistical support for the company, she realized that she had allowed Daniel to hold too much control over the years. That had pushed her to the sidelines when Daniel began to change. But this time, she resolved not to stand behind him any longer. In front of Daniel, Emily remained her usual self, but behind his back, she began putting her plan into action. Emily enrolled in online courses on business management, financial investment, and stock analysis. She attended discreet seminars, devoured books on business strategy, and even hired a personal mentor to help her gain knowledge as quickly as possible. At first, the learning process wasn't easy. Complex financial terms and charts filled with dense data sometimes left Emily overwhelmed. But she didn't give up. Every night after Daniel fell asleep, Emily sat in front of her computer, focusing as intently as a student preparing for the most critical exam of her life. Once she felt confident in her basic knowledge, Emily began to take action. She quietly reached out to a lawyer and a trusted financial advisory team. Their first meeting took place in a small cafe where she laid out her story and asked for their assistance. "My husband thinks I'm just a homemaker who doesn't understand business," Emily said calmly, though her eyes burned with determination. "I want to change that, and I need a plan to protect myself and what I've built." The advisory team laid out several options, from gathering legal evidence to covertly acquiring shares in the company. They advised Emily not to reveal anything until she was certain of victory. Under their guidance, Emily began constructing a network of intermediaries to gradually purchase shares in the company. She used the names of trusted individuals and organizations to ensure that Daniel wouldn't discover her increasing control over the company. Each transaction was executed meticulously, each share acquired with careful calculation. Every time a deal was completed, Emily felt herself drawing closer to her goal. One of the most critical steps in Emily's plan was building connections with the company's shareholders. Previously, she only knew them through meetings led by Daniel. Now she reached out to them directly, arranging private meetings to establish trust. In every meeting, Emily demonstrated a deep understanding of the company, its current challenges, and its future growth opportunities. The shareholders, who had grown tired of Daniel's arrogant and authoritarian demeanor, were quickly impressed by her professionalism and sincerity. "You are a woman with vision," one shareholder remarked during a meeting. "If Daniel had listened to you more, this company might have grown faster." While building her network, Emily didn't overlook gathering information about Daniel and Vanessa. She hired a private investigator to monitor the couple, collecting evidence of Daniel's expenditures on Vanessa. Photos, receipts, and their schedules were carefully documented and preserved. Emily didn't intend to confront Daniel solely on emotional grounds. She wanted irrefutable evidence to use if necessary, particularly if she had to face him in court or during company meetings. To ensure everything was flawless, Emily collaborated with a team of experts to develop a long-term strategy. Her goal wasn't just to unseat Daniel, but to elevate the company to unprecedented heights under her leadership. The team of experts helped Emily identify areas of the company that needed improvement, from financial optimization to international market expansion. Every move was carefully calculated to ensure that when Emily took control, she could immediately manage the company effectively. Emily devoted all her time and effort to her plan. Long nights were spent at her desk, meticulously reviewing every detail, every transaction, and every next step. In those moments, she no longer saw herself as a betrayed wife, but as a leader preparing for the greatest battle of her life. Emily knew Daniel's betrayal was a significant shock, but it also became the driving force for her to rediscover herself. You think I'm just a dutiful wife, meant to stand in your shadow? You're about to pay for underestimating me, she thought to herself. One morning, just like any other, as Daniel sipped his coffee in his office, his secretary entered, holding a high-end envelope embossed with the red seal of an international financial conglomerate. "A letter from the investors, Mr. Daniel," she said, placing the envelope on the desk. Daniel set his coffee cup down, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. He carefully tore open the envelope and pulled out an invitation written in elegant typography. "Dear Mr. Daniel, we cordially invite you to a meeting in Monaco to discuss development strategies in collaboration with international investors." As Daniel finished reading, a satisfied smile spread across his face. This wasn't just an ordinary meeting, but an opportunity to propel his company to new heights. This is the turning point, he thought to himself. I won't just convince them to invest, but also solidify my status in the international business arena. Even though he was excited, Daniel understood this was not a simple meeting. The investors were known for being demanding, especially Miss Eloise Laurent, a French billionaire with a reputation for being meticulous and rigorous. Daniel knew that the meeting required not only a flawless plan with detailed financial figures, but also a striking personal impression. It's not just about words. I need to have presence, he thought. He quickly called his secretary and instructed her to prepare all the necessary documents, from detailed financial reports to presentation slides. At the same time, he scheduled a meeting with the management team to review the strategic plans. Daniel understood that even the smallest detail could influence the first impression. He spent the entire afternoon meeting with his personal fashion designer to choose a custom-tailored, high-end suit. His handcrafted Italian leather shoes and a Swiss watch he had ordered earlier were also carefully prepared. I need to make them believe I'm not just a great businessman, but also a symbol of success and sophistication, Daniel told himself. When considering who to bring along, Daniel immediately thought of Vanessa. He envisioned her walking into the meeting room with a confident and alluring demeanor, drawing every eye in the room. Vanessa will be the perfect highlight for my image, Daniel thought. She'll help me win over the investors, especially Ms. Laurent. He quickly called Vanessa. During the conversation, they discussed outfit preparations and how Vanessa could support him during the meeting. You just need to show up and smile. They won't be able to resist being impressed, Daniel said smugly. Vanessa, brimming with confidence, replied, Don't worry, darling. I'll make you shine. Together we'll make them unable to say no. With the plans set, Daniel decided to inform Emily that she would not be accompanying him. One evening, as Emily was preparing dinner, Daniel walked in with a tone that made it seem like a matter of course. My love, I have an important business trip next week, he began. I need to fully focus and don't want you to worry or feel burdened by it. Emily paused for a moment, looking at Daniel with an unreadable expression. Is this trip so important? I can come along to support you if needed. Daniel shook his head, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. No need. I need to stay focused on work. Besides, you have a lot to manage here at home, don't you? Emily nodded and responded gently. All right, if that's what you think. Daniel sighed in relief, completely unaware that Emily already knew the truth. She smiled, but in her mind, she had already started planning her next steps. The night before the trip, Daniel met Vanessa at an upscale restaurant. They toasted with champagne and discussed the final details of the meeting. "You'll be the key factor," Daniel said, his eyes filled with pride. "They'll look at you and see that I'm not only a brilliant entrepreneur, but also have the perfect partner by my side." Vanessa confidently smiled. "Rest assured, I know exactly how to grab their attention." Meanwhile, Emily sat at home in her study, illuminated by the warm glow of a desk lamp. Before her lay a carefully crafted plan. "Daniel, you think you've got everything under control, but you're about to face a reality you never expected," Emily thought, her eyes brimming with determination. On the day of the critical meeting, Daniel and Vanessa walked into the luxurious conference room of a high-end hotel in Monaco, exuding confidence and authority. Daniel wore a perfectly tailored suit, while Vanessa donned a velvet red dress, radiating sophistication and allure. The light from the crystal chandeliers reflected off the polished conference table, creating an atmosphere that was both solemn and opulent. Daniel proudly introduced himself. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vanessa, my wife. She has always been by my side, supporting me through every significant step in the company's development." Vanessa gave a graceful nod and a radiant smile, lighting up the room. She sat beside Daniel, her elegant hands gently resting on the documents as if ready for the meeting. Daniel glanced around the room, satisfied to see the admiring looks from a few investors. He thought, "I've prepared everything perfectly." The meeting began with Daniel's presentation. He confidently navigated through slides detailing the development strategies, emphasizing the profitability potential of the new project. The investors listened intently, but the atmosphere began to shift when Ms. Eloise Laurent, a commanding figure with large sunglasses and thick dark hair, started asking questions. "Mr. Daniel," she began, her voice carrying a light French accent, yet exuding authority, "I'd like to know more about how you're handling recent internal management issues, particularly the changes in resource allocation policies." Daniel paused briefly. This wasn't a question he had anticipated. He tried to smile to mask his unease. Yes, we're in the process of fine-tuning strategies to ensure efficiency and alignment with our long-term goals." Mrs. Laurent tilted her head, her gaze from behind her sunglasses seeming to pierce through Daniel's words. "Adjustments? It seems like you don't have a concrete plan. Could you explain the short-term impact of these changes in more detail?" Daniel began to sweat. He hadn't anticipated Mrs. Laurent diving into such specifics, details he wasn't prepared for, especially those only an insider would know. Meanwhile, Vanessa tried to maintain her smile, but the tension on her face was becoming increasingly evident. The investors began exchanging glances, and Daniel could sense the growing doubt filling the room. After a few more questions, the atmosphere became even heavier. Daniel tried to regain his confidence, but every time he answered, Mrs. Laurent posed another difficult question, targeting the weaknesses in his plan. "Mr. Daniel," Mrs. Laurent continued, her tone authoritative, yet still polite, "I would also like to know how your company plans to address internal conflicts of interest among the management team. I've heard about some recent disagreements. Could you clarify?" Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but then shut it again. He had no answer. Vanessa glanced at Daniel nervously, but was powerless to salvage the situation. At that moment, Mrs. Laurent set her documents down on the table and gently removed her sunglasses, revealing sharp but familiar eyes. Then she reached up and removed a wig, unveiling soft, familiar brown hair. The room fell into silence. No one uttered a word. Emily, Daniel's wife, was sitting across from him. She was no longer the modest woman he had underestimated, but a commanding and confident presence who completely dominated the room. Daniel was stunned. He stared at Emily in disbelief, his mouth agape but unable to form any words. Beside him, Vanessa sat frozen, her eyes wide with shock. Emily broke the silence, her voice calm yet carrying undeniable strength. "Surprised, Daniel? I not only know about your relationship with Vanessa, but I'm also fully aware of everything you've done behind my back." She glanced at the investors before continuing. "Over the past months, I've been quietly acquiring shares of the company through intermediaries. As of now, I hold a controlling interest. From this point forward, all major decisions regarding the company will be made by me, not you. Daniel felt the ground beneath him give way. This can't be. How did she manage this? He thought, desperately trying to reclaim his completely shattered composure. Emily turned to the investors. I apologize for the disruption, but I want to assure you that you're investing in a company with strong leadership. Today, I'm here to demonstrate that I am the most capable person to lead this company. Daniel was completely broken. He was no longer the confident man who had walked into the boardroom with an air of authority. Instead, he sat silently, overwhelmed by the weight of his defeat. Vanessa, the mistress he had placed his trust in, was now nothing more than a dim figure unable to help him in this moment. Emily cast one final glance at Daniel, her eyes resolute but devoid of anger. She stood, politely greeted the investors, and led the meeting forward like a true leader. Daniel remained seated, helpless, realizing that not only the company, but his entire life now rested in Emily's hands, the very woman he had once undervalued. The meeting in Monaco marked the beginning of Daniel's complete downfall. After Emily revealed the truth and reversed the power dynamic, she officially filed for divorce and secured control of the company through the majority shares she had quietly acquired. Daniel was ousted from the position of power he had once taken for granted. In the divorce proceedings, Emily presented ample evidence of Daniel's infidelity, from messages with Vanessa to extravagant expenditures from their shared funds. Emily's experienced attorney ensured she won a substantial portion of their assets, including the home they once shared. Daniel not only lost his wife, but also the company, the symbol of success he had always been so proud of. With no one left to support him, Daniel realized he had destroyed everything because of his arrogance and selfish ambitions. Vanessa, the lover Daniel had once been infatuated with, quickly left him when she realized he no longer had anything to hold on to. After the meeting, she avoided Daniel for several days. One morning, Daniel woke up in an empty apartment with nothing left but a small note on the table. Daniel, I need someone who can secure my future. You're not that person anymore. Goodbye. The brief words cut into Daniel's pride like a sharp blade. For the first time, he felt the profound weight of loneliness. With no one by his side, Daniel faced the harsh reality. Everything he once had was now just a memory. While Daniel spiraled into despair, Emily began a new journey with a determined resolve to rebuild everything she had worked so hard to create. Armed with the knowledge and strategy she had been preparing for a long time, Emily swiftly restructured the company, correcting the mistakes in Daniel's management approach. Investors who had once doubted the company's leadership now placed their complete trust in Emily. She secured major contracts and expanded the business to international markets. Emily's name appeared in bold letters on the company headquarters signage, a symbol of strength and intellect. Articles praising her achievements filled business magazines. Emily became a source of inspiration, not only for women but for anyone who had ever been underestimated. While focusing on her career, Emily still left the door open for her personal life. At a business conference, she met Daniel Carter, a young entrepreneur with strategic vision and a warm heart. This Daniel was unlike the one she had known. He not only admired Emily's intelligence but also valued her resilience and independence. Daniel approached Emily with sincerity, taking his time and respecting all the boundaries she set. Through long conversations about work and life, Emily realized she had found not only a professional partner, but also a true companion. Daniel often emphasized, Emily, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You are already an extraordinary woman. Step by step, Emily allowed herself to open up, letting love return to her life. She realized that happiness didn't come from revenge or triumph over the past, but from rediscovering her worth and being with someone who truly appreciated her. While Emily regained both her career and love, Daniel continued to sink deeper into loneliness and regret. With no company, no lover, and no reputation left, he lived quietly in a small apartment, facing the emptiness of each day. Daniel tried reaching out to former business partners, but no one wanted to work with someone whose credibility had been tarnished. Once a successful businessman, he now searched for odd jobs to survive. One day while wandering the streets, Daniel passed by his old company's headquarters. The name Emily Carter and Company stood prominently on a large sign, its reflective glow making it even more striking. Daniel stopped and stared at the lettering, a wave of bitterness rising within him. Everything that was once mine now belongs to her, he thought. He lowered his head and walked away, carrying the unrelenting pain and regret. While Daniel lived with his remorse, Emily continued to shine. She was not only a successful entrepreneur, but also a woman who had found herself again. Her relationship with the new Daniel helped her understand that true value doesn't come from triumphing over others, but from living authentically. In an interview, Emily once said, "The greatest failure isn't being defeated, it's not having the courage to stand up and change. I chose to stand up." The story of Emily and Daniel offers a profound lesson. Betrayal and arrogance lead to loss, while patience, intelligence, and self-respect empower someone to overcome challenges and achieve greatness. If you love stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss other touching stories. Did you find this story meaningful? Please rate it from 1 to 10 in the comments below.